What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another video from the Scalar Learning channel on the SAT. And in particular, following this news story that's unfolding, which is saying that Dartmouth College will again require SAT and ACT scores. This is going to be for students that will be graduating in the class of 2029, meaning students that are starting in 2025. We released a video earlier this year on this channel talking about this new change in trajectory for a lot of universities that are now wanting to reinstate these tests as they do find they're wonderful predictors of both success in college and after. So just to put it out there, I did feel like this would eventually happen. I do think that these tests, they make sense as sort of standardized barometers to compare students across the board at different schools, at different curriculums with different levels of grade inflation, right? So I think that this is a nice standard where you can kind of look across the spectrum and compare students well. It also helps for students that maybe are coming from unknown high schools or things like that. It's like, all right, well, now at least I have some standardized metric by which to look at your entire application. So one of the interesting things to point out in this study that was conducted within the university is that the test scores in particular could have helped less advantaged students, including first-generation students and students from low-income families, gain access to the school. So it's almost contrary to the narrative that has been projected for a long time about these tests and the test scores actually hindering students from these disadvantaged backgrounds. What they're finding is actually the opposite. When you look at this line here, it says, he said students from disadvantaged backgrounds submitted their test scores at far lower rates, but their scores were high enough that they might have helped the students get in. So a lot of these students felt maybe, oh, I don't know, this score is going to hurt me, but had they submitted them, it would have actually helped them out. And this sentence right here, this is a point that I mentioned previously, right? For students from unknown high schools that didn't already have a track record of sending their students to Dartmouth, that's going to help put a spotlight on those kids. Wait a minute, they're from this high school. We haven't taken traditionally a lot of people from there, but they got a really high score. Let's have another look. So now I just wanted to jump into the study a bit more. I've included a few excerpts just to give you guys a better understanding of what exactly they did and how they came to their conclusion. So it says the inputs were numerous. They included interviews and commentary from admissions, the white paper produced by the institutional research, published and unpublished academic papers regarding SAT and ACT scores, and then detailed data on Dartmouth applicants and Dartmouth students. Okay, so they took all of this data, and it says the overall conclusion is that the use of these scores is an essential method by which admissions can identify applicants who will succeed at Dartmouth. Another excerpt shows that the SAT scores are highly predictive of academic performance at Dartmouth, okay, and that's consistent with previous research. And if you look down here, it also says that the SAT and ACT scores also predict career success, including high levels of earnings and attendance at elite graduate schools, holding family income constant. Lastly, it states that the relationship between first-year college GPA and SAT/ACT scores is likewise quite similar across neighborhood income and other demographic subgroups. So they're trying to factor out, right, these other socioeconomic status indicators, and what they're finding is a positive correlation between success in college and after with good scores. The last point that this study makes, which is really, really important, which again has been talked about many times in previous videos on this channel, and I'm going to put a link to another video where I made talking specifically about the fact that people are now backtracking on that notion that these tests are biased or whatnot. So it says here, by necessity, test optional policies put more weight on components of the application that increase the admissions chance of groups that have historically been better represented, do not predict success at Dartmouth or later in life. But the first part, A, have historically been better represented at Dartmouth. What does that mean? To me, that means families that maybe have been going for a long time, right? Or maybe families that have access to particular extracurriculars that can look really nice on a college application. Maybe they have access to college counselors that can help polish the application, whereas other students may not, right? So and this point has been made by me, by Super Tutor TV, by a lot of folks previously, where actually the things that are easier to manipulate, regardless of what people have been saying about the standardized test, are actually those extracurriculars, the essays, the applications, those other intangibles. Those are a lot easier to kind of bolster with outside help that you can have access to if you have the financial means versus compared to the SAT and the ACT, especially considering how many incredible free resources this channel included, obviously, where we're helping and teaching people for absolutely no cost. Now, this last sentence is very notable, and I just want to include it. It says, moreover, Dartmouth admissions reads SAT and ACT scores in context or in relation to the local educational environment. For example, an applicant with an SAT score of 1400 has a higher probability probability of admission if from a high school where average SAT scores are relatively low. So remember that it's not just looked at in a vacuum. And I think that's where people get confused or people get worried sometimes with these scores. It's looked at as one more data point. And why not have that extra data point, especially considering I think it's quite unbiased relative to a lot of the other components on these applications. So that's it for this video. I just wanted to cover this story as it's a big story. It's being circulated everywhere. I do believe at the current time, this is going in the correct direction. I do believe it makes sense to bring these tests back. And again, just because I have a channel on the SAT and the ACT and all these different tests doesn't mean I'm going to continue to support it blindly. If there is a point where I feel like there's a better metric or there's a reason to remove it, I'll be the first to say it. But it does feel like they're making the right decision, and the data is clearly supporting what they're doing. So I imagine more schools are going to fall in line with this sort of protocol. Anyways, I hope you guys liked this video. And if you did, please click that like button. If you want to see more from the Scalar Learning channel, make sure to click subscribe. And if you are preparing for this upcoming digital SAT, I urge you, if math is something that you're working on, make sure to subscribe, follow along. We're doing videos every day, pretty much more than one a day, leading up to this March SAT to get you guys ready for all the math that you will encounter on this test. Thank you guys so much for joining, and I'll see you in the next video. Take it easy.